Welcome to another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line with my co-host, David Hart, Executive Vice President of the Florida Chamber, and our special guest, Kevin Watson, Senior Vice President of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Institute for Legal Reform. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome. Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about the Institute and what it is you focus on and do?
Sure. The U.S. Chamber Institute for Legal Reform is an affiliate of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We were created just a little over a decade ago to help America's business community advocate for a judicial system that is faster, fairer, and simpler.
Well, with that, Florida has had the unfortunate reputation of being a state with one of the worst legal climates in the country, and a newly released survey further confirms that. So, just from the U.S. Chamber's Institute for Legal Reform standpoint, why does Florida continue to rank among the worst states?
Well, Florida unfortunately makes the bottom 10 list of states in our ranking, which is an opinion survey of major in-house attorneys from America's largest employers. And it's important for Florida to improve that ranking because this opinion making comes into play when companies look at where to expand or to locate. I think Florida unfortunately has a reputation that's in part based on the laws on the books. It's also to some degree based on the actions of the courts, but there's certainly a lot of room for Florida to improve and make a more competitive business climate, which will help attract business to the state.
And David, as the voice of business, what do you think can be done to improve this worst legal ranking that we have in the state of Florida?
Well, there's much to be done, and I think it's important first to say how much we at the Florida Chamber appreciate the partnership with the Institute for Legal Reform and also William Large's group, the Florida Justice Reform Institute.
Certainly.
They're really partners. We are together in trying to reshape Florida's legal climate. In recent years, we've managed to do a few important things in the area of legal reform. 2 years ago, we managed to get done the crashworthiness bill, which was really good protection for the auto industry. And then last session, we did the personal injury protection, which was auto insurance. But there's much to do, including expert witness, bad faith, and others.
Well, and that was sort of the next question. You know, you've supported expert testimony, legal reform efforts. Why are Florida's businesses such an easy target for trial lawyers? I mean, what needs to be done?
Yeah, this expert witness legislation is so important for Florida. Florida now is one of a minority of states left that use an older standard for what's admissible in court as evidence. It's called the Frye Standard. And this older standard really allows junk science and pure opinion admissible as evidence in the courtroom. So at the Florida Chamber, we've advocated migrating to the higher standard of evidence, which is called the Daubert Standard. A majority of states and the federal courts now use that. That would really help improve Florida's ranking.
So that's something you're going to have to be focusing on.
Absolutely. We've actually passed it 2 years in a row in the Florida House, and I expect we will make another strong attempt this year to pass expert witness.
And Kevin, bad faith lawsuits. Florida doesn't have a legal standard for how insurance companies can handle these causes of action. What can be done to establish a more predictable settlement process with bad faith lawsuits?
Well, we think passing some common sense rules that clean up the process and make it easier to understand both for insurers to comply and to respond when there's a claim appropriately, and for customers to understand what they should expect from their insurer. At the end of the day, fixing some of those problems will benefit the consumer, whether that's an individual or small business, by lowering their rates and making the system resolve quicker. It also will reduce the inclination of plaintiffs' bar attorneys to want to target small businesses in particular with bad faith litigation.
And David, Kevin just mentioned this will actually be something that will help consumers. So from a business standpoint, what does this do? It reduces costs, doesn't it?
Right. Well, you want to put Florida in a position where we're more competitive versus other states. And to the degree that businesses feel like they're kind of find themselves at the other end of a frivolous lawsuit, they're more likely to not come to Florida or not expand in Florida. And we've actually got places in Florida that are considered judicial hellholes where some lawyers venue shop and try to get a case in that court because they know the chances are so high that they'll be able to pick the pockets of certain business. And so we've got to make these improvements just to be able to compete with the other 49 states and in fact around the world.
Well, Kevin, kind of in our discussions, some of the changes are not just laws, I mean, that we have to do or make in the state of Florida. We also have to talk about judges, the nomination of judges that are conservative, that will not legislate from the bench. Are those some of the things that you're focused on?
Absolutely. You know, the Harris poll encompasses not just the climate on the books with regard to laws, but how the courts interpret and in some cases enact new legislation by legislating from the bench. Florida is in the unique position where the governors have less influence in shaping that climate, and that's something that we work very closely with our partners here at the Florida Chamber on improving their legal system by trying to pass efforts to reform that system and make for a more effective process.
David, is that something that the Chamber will be focusing on?
Right. The JNC Reform, which is shorthand for Judicial Nominating Commission, there have been attempts in recent years to reform the JNC and how that nominating process works and what names actually can go forward to the governor. And as Kevin said, that current system is a little bit tilted against the business community, and so I think JNC Reform is clearly a priority.
I mean, as we've seen in the past, I don't think that they send enough names to the governor.
True.
So,
more options would better serve.
With that, I appreciate you joining us today on the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line. Kevin, will please keep us updated on progress here in the state of Florida. And to you, our viewers, thank you for joining us again. We hope your bottom line is looking up.